Okay, let's look at the basics of putting together music then. So to start with, we don't want this time code based timeline at the moment, so we need to change it back to beats. So back to Soundtrackpro preferences and change your timescale seconds to beats there. Everything else should be the same as last time, 25 frames a second, just make sure that it is. Okay, so once we've done that, we need a new project to take on those attributes. New multi-track project. You'll see that opens up as another tab here, so just watch for them if you get too many. Music then, we can see the timeline has now changed to these are the beats here, so that's 4 bars, 4 bars, 4 bars, and I'll show you that more in the music. Music, you have music beds, which is actual pieces of music. Be careful with them because we've heard them all before. Make sure it does fit your film if you're going to use it. There are 5 or 6 websites for sound effects and music on Blackboard that I've put up a while ago, so you can find them in the announcements. And please take a look at them as well. It takes a lot of time researching and looking for music and gets really dull, but it's worthwhile if you get something that really fits your film and gives it its identity. Anyway, so instead let's go to instruments. Here again with my buttons you can see all the different types, so we'll start with a piece of bass. You can now change it, so your beats here, 4 beats per bar, and here's your numbers here, so we've got 4 beats for that, so that bit of rubbly would stick 1 piece there, the 16 would fill the first 4. So you can change it to the beat so we can slip through and find something we're looking for. Okay, so once you've got your first piece of music picked, you can then start going through your other instrument to try and find the next one that fits. Something that helps here, I'm just going to switch my buttons to strings first. Something that helps as you go through, if you press play on your track, that will loop as you find the next piece of music. So just try and fire through and find something. As you play though, you'll hear it kind of fit with what you're looking for. Okay, so I'm going to track this second track up and just place it slightly away to give a slight bridge. Okay, so to loop the tracks, you move your arrow, your cursor to the side of a track, you'll get a trim, so you can drag and that just loops the track for you, I suppose, rather than having to copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste. So if you do that with both, you can have them now looping together. And now rather than playing mine again, I'll just go through the features to change the volumes. You can play this as you go, but if you open up one of the tracks, actually I'm just going to open up the orchestra, scroll down. Each track has its own volume and pan, so you can take the whole volume down if you wanted your strings to be a lower volume. Pull the whole track down there. If you want to do a fade though instead, the fades, we've done keyframes before in Final Cut Pro. Keyframes are now called envelopes in here just to confuse people, if that's enough to confuse people. And to get a keyframe then it's just double click on the track. So double click there and there will give me my fade. Okay, you can see there's no audio at that point, so there's nothing to worry about there. So that's your fade there. Panning here, the panning would be setting your music either to the left hand side of the tracks, left hand side of the speakers, or to the right hand side of the speakers. You can put it right to the very edge or gauge it up a little bit just so it feels more to one side of your stereo track. If you want to do an actual pan, the panning is the same as the keyframes on your audio. So if there was a motorbike or something hurtling across the screen from left to right, you could pan your audio to go from left to right, okay, and fade it down so the motorbike would slip across the screen. So there's panning to work with there as well. When you are adding more and more tracks, you'll notice the master volume, which is here and the top right, is going to get higher and higher. You should be setting your audio track to about 0.4. It's 0.6 to 0.4. Okay, 0 after 0 it will distort, and you'll have your music and you'll have your ambient track and you'll have lots of sound effects and your dialogue or voiceover. So every level needs to be lower to hit the 0 at maximum. You should only hit 0 when you want it to make a big impact as well with a certain sound. So the music, you should export that about -4, and you can take the volume down a little bit more in Final Cut Pro if you need to. The only other thing I was going to go through just for the minute with this, let's just try and get to the end of the track and just drag any other piece of music next to track 1. For a cross dissolve, if you wanted a simple cross dissolve, all you need to do there, you can do that with your volume and the envelopes, the keyframes, or you can simply drag one track onto another and you can see it gives you a crossfade there. If you want to be frame specific and get the fade exactly where you wanted it, you'll need to use your cursor here and just put your keyframes on manually. Doesn't take that much longer, but if you listen to the fades, sometimes they work really smoothly between each other. For exporting your music track, if you have like 10 tracks here, you just still go to File, Export. So with your 10 tracks, you can export a master mix again, which will flatten it into 2 stereo tracks of an AIFF quality again, CD quality. Or you can export as all tracks, and that will give you a folder with all the separate tracks in there. You should really do that mastering during your time in Soundtrackpro, but you have this option as well if you want to take them to Final Cut Pro and do some final tweaks to the volumes of each track. The tracks will be separated, and any tracks that start in the middle of your song will have silence before it, so everything will still sync up in Final Cut Pro.